Hey everybody, this is Perch, and year one. What is year one? It's a gimmick, for lack of better words. This is something that happened years and years ago with Batman when Frank Miller did that brief four-issue series there, and it was very successful. I think it hit the market at a time when people maybe weren't expecting it. As an origin-ish story, it did a few things differently, clarified some of the parts of Batman, set a new tone for the character. In many ways, it was ripped off from other artists' tone, but regardless, it was a very successful event. It was something that, when collected, did very well in the trade market. And back then, not everything was going to trade, of course. And so it was kind of this idea that not only did it sell comics, but it opened up a new continual business directly for the publisher. Remember, and please, it's easy to skate past this and overlook it. But the publisher, once they sell that comic initially to the store, it goes into back issue bins. The rest of the markup and the additional revenue is in the hands of the comic book shop. If a comic book shop marks up a $4.99 book to $20 because the value is raised, there's no royalty, no kickback, nothing that goes to the publisher. They're out of that part of the business chain. And this is something that's irked publishers for a long time. It does bother them that they're not getting that money. It comes up as kind of this weird phantom idea of, hey, shouldn't we be getting a check for that? We should, right? And it's just funny. It's always a funny, slightly drunken conversation that happens. Never, by the way, with the writers and the artists. This is with the editorial and the on-staff people. But anyway, it's just kind of funny how that goes. But year one, it sells well, and then DC figures out, hey, we can put this in a trade and actually have pretty continual value off of it, and because we can keep selling those trades, we keep basically making money off of old issues. So that went around, and comic publishers, being who they are, they never found a good idea that they can't reuse 800 times. Said let's do more of this, and thus the year one concept was born to a large extent. So here comes a question from a viewer about year one, and it says, "Hey Perch, do characters actually need a year one story? I'm saying this as one of the very few people I know who found something to like in Superman year one. I still felt the book just wasn't necessary when we could have had literally any other Miller, John Romita Jr. Superman book. We got stuck with a series that was just okay. And now Deathstroke Inc. is getting a year one story by Bassan. Like, do we need that? He's a mercenary who presumably was a brash, unrefined merc in his first year who grew into a more skilled one. There's your year one. I'd rather have a modern story of him just being badass." And there's a little bit more of this we'll get to in a minute. But, I think that the year one concept wound up being this series of steps that creates a trap. And you identify it there. It's all right, we want something that could be an origin-like story. And year one is market friendly to people who are non-comic readers. It sounds like, hey, I'm getting something at the beginning. This is the year one, the start. And it's maybe that's going to resonate more with people than saying this is issue number one, because that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And we've rebooted these series so much that none of this means anything. But if we call it year one, we slap that in a trade, and then people come around who are maybe not fans of the character, or not big comic collectors, and they buy in. They're like, oh, this is the beginning. Yeah, I'll bite. That's the premise. And so when writers do this, the other aspect of year one that they get to is like, well, Frank Miller told this story. It was a little dark, a little deconstructive. It revealed kind of this new aspect to the character, and so they see that part and they go, well then. If we're going to do an origin story, it just can't be a simple origin story. We're going to have to reveal at least some kind of dark secret or some kind of deconstructed aspect to the hero. We're going to have to subvert expectations somewhat. Otherwise, we're just being repetitive. So, which is a joke in and of itself. It's like we don't want to be repetitive. It's like, dude, you're doing a year one series for a character in 2022. By the very nature, you're repetitive at this point. But anyway, so it's they go down this path that every single step, I think, takes them into a product that is questionable, at least, or confusing for the readers. But the reality is they still do sell, But like your example of Deathstroke, is there value in deconstructing or revealing parts of Deathstroke's past? I mean, I might argue part of Deathstroke's entire charm is that you don't know parts of his past, that there's mystery there. It's kind of the Wolverine aspect. Was Wolverine better off when we didn't know, that he was a whatever, a colonial boy who was kind of prissy back in the day? I mean, did we need the Wolverine origin story, or was it better when there was this big memory hole gap to his life? I think that version of Wolverine was better. I think you fill in all the blanks. It's very tempting to do that, and people may ask you for that, but that's maybe one of those cases where you don't give the fans what they want, because the fans are, when they ask for, hey, I'd love to see his origin someday, you're like, yeah, someday, but for now, there's a lot of value and magic in the character just being mysterious. And so doing a year one story, I mean, the funny part is, no matter how much you deconstruct or reveal some dark secret or do something unique about it, no matter what you do, it's still going to be very predictable. Like the letter writer said, it is going to be like, okay, so at one point, Deathstroke was not as good at killing, and he made some mistakes, and he probably accidentally killed a kid when he didn't mean to, and it horrified him. But then this caused him to become emotionally distant, and then he killed more. But I mean, like, again, who cares, honestly? And now Bresson's a good writer, and it'll be interesting to see what he's able to come out with. But you do get to wouldn't it be more entertaining if we could just get a good old adventure story, or good old Deathstroke doing something amazing? I mean, you could go into his past and reveal secret little things about it, but the how this character became this character bit is it's run into the ground. So it would be interesting to see what happens with it. I do feel like the market dropped on this stuff. I think the year one stories do not have anywhere close to the pull that they used to, and I think they're more limiting than anything else. But yeah, they still crank them out. So I mean, on some level, there's at least a belief they do well. I don't think the numbers support that, but more power to you if you want to keep kind of digging that hole. Let me go back to the mail, because there's one last little bit here at the end, and it hurts because it's true. It says, by the way, it was a little funny how a while back you said it would be cool seeing Vixen on the Dark Crisis team, and then to read Dark Crisis #1, give her one single panel where they give her the brush off. Not funny, haha, more painful funny, like, okay, so you do remember Vixen, you just aren't interested. I don't get DC with Vixen as a character. I honestly don't. I think you've got a pretty powerful character. I think you've got a unique character. You've got a diverse character. The feature set is unusual, but visually kind of can be very cool. Lots of artists can do lots of cool stuff with it, and yet the publisher just never wants to get behind her as a character and give her a solid run. And instead, it's like here's, if you're Bendis, right, and you come in, and by the way, the answer to this is because he gets the royalty, so I understand. But if you're Bendis, you come in and you say things like, hey, I've got a daughter here. I want her to have a character in the comic books that she can see herself in, and all the rest. Like, why not take Vixen and kind of like you did with in New Avengers with Spider-Woman and Luke Cage? Why not elevate this character? I mean, why always do we have to go to some new, often poorly written, character that struggles to catch on anywhere? And meanwhile, you've got these characters just sitting on the shelf doing nothing that could make money. That's all. It's always bizarre to me. And I mean, good Lord, give Vixen some love somewhere. I mean, it's a cool character. And that's for me. I mean, everybody has different tastes in characters and everything else. I just think in a world where so many of the superheroes are very repetitive, Vixen is got a kind of a different story, different background, different power set, lots of unique things going on, and feels like you should do something with that. I mean, and it just, if for no other reason than you're stretching a lot of your current heroes and current sets, to their absolute limit. And maybe this is a way you bring some uniqueness back. But anyway, thank you very much for the mail. Let me know your thoughts on year one. Are they necessary? Do they help? Have they evolved poorly over time? Should they have ever revealed Wolverine's origin? Maybe that's another video for another time to talk more about that. And what do they do with Vixen? Anyway, thanks for listening.